Hey everybody, Kyle at Hilly Sales and Service. Today I'm going to show you the good, better, and best ways to winterize your handheld gas-powered tools. Okay, so the good method of winterizing your handheld equipment is going to be to drain the fuel from the unit, from the fuel tank, and from the carburetor. Now, in all actuality, this should be referred to as an okay method rather than a good method, as you're not going to get all of the fuel out of the carburetor, as there's still going to be some left over. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to make sure that you have a good pair of gloves, good pair of safety glasses, and then also you're going to want to make sure that you have a good place to drain the fuel into. So I have a 5-gallon bucket here, and then you want to make sure that you're disposing of that fuel then properly. So we'll go ahead, we'll jump into draining that out, get that done. So the first thing you'll do is take your unit, take the fuel cap off. Then we're just going to tip it over and drain all the fuel out of it into our bucket. Make sure we get all of it out. And then the next part is you can do one of two things to get the fuel out of the carburetor. You can either put the fuel cap back on the tank, start the unit and run it until it shuts off, or you can keep the fuel cap off, flip the unit over, and then pump the primer ball until all of the fuel comes out. So we'll go ahead, we're going to use that method of flipping the unit over and pumping the primer ball. So now we'll go ahead and we'll drain the fuel out of the carburetor. So with your fuel cap off, find your primer ball, it's right here. Flip the unit over, and then pump the primer ball. And you can see there, some fuel coming out yet. Pump until the fuel stops coming out. See there, we did a pretty good job. All the fuel left in the cap. Getting that fuel out of the unit. Now, like I said earlier, again, we call this a good method, but in all actuality, it should be probably called an okay method, as you're not going to get all the fuel out of the unit. And if you were previously using ethanol fuel, you're still going to run the risk of having ethanol left over in the carburetor, and that leftover ethanol could potentially clog your jets in your carburetor. And then when you would go to start the unit or use the unit in the spring or whenever that may be after you take it out of storage, you may have a hard start or a no start or poor performance issues from that ethanol and ethanol deposits being left over in the carburetor. So if you're using the method of draining the tank and carburetor, at this point you can go ahead, put the cap back on, and your unit is ready to be stored for the season. So the better method of winterizing your handheld equipment would be to add a fuel stabilizer. With me I have a Toro and a Startron fuel stabilizers. Both are great products. Both can be used in a 4-cycle or 2-cycle engine. Then on the back of the labels they have directions so that you know how much of the fuel stabilizer to add to your fuel tank. So all you would do is you would open your fuel tank, and then you would pour the specified amount into your fuel tank, and then put your fuel cap back on, start the engine on your handheld tool, and run it to work some of that fuel stabilizer through your fuel system, which is going to help to maintain your fuel system throughout the course of the winter. So our final method is going to be the best method, and that's draining the fuel system, which we already did, and then adding an ethanol-free fuel. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to do that. So I have a can of Kawasaki pre-mixed 2-cycle fuel. It's It's an ethanol-free fuel, 93 octane, and has a shelf life of 2 years. This is what we're going to use to put into the unit to store for the winter. So we'll start just by taking the fuel cap off, opening the can of fuel, and then putting fuel into the tank. Full. Fuel cap on. And then now what you'd want to do is start the unit, run it, get that fuel run into the system. All right, everybody, thanks for watching this episode of Hilly Ridge How To. If you have any questions or if there's any videos that you'd like to see in the future, go ahead and leave us a comment below. If you haven't liked any of our videos, we ask that you do that. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, we ask that you do that as well. It's Hilly Ridge Sales and Service YouTube channel. We have a lot of other great videos there as well. So again, thanks for watching. Have a blessed day. See you later.